Hi folks, Sty here. Time for a Sty story, I think. I'm calling this one, It's My Island. This is basically a hunting story. Years and years ago, I worked with a fella. We had a tree service around the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And he had a deer shack on some hunting property he owned up in northern Minnesota. And he invited me to go up for one deer season. I said, oh yeah, sure. I never said no to deer hunting. And so we spent the later part of the summer going up back and forth to his cabin and scouting the area out and figuring out where we're going to want to hunt. And well, adjacent to his property was a lot of federal forest land, and there was a huge slough, big swamp. Oh boy, it had to have covered 500-600 acres. And I was hiking along this ridge looking out over that swamp, and I couldn't believe how many deer were coming and going out of that swamp. And I saw a couple of monster bucks coming out of there. I thought, oh boy, I could kill a big buck in here, out in here. And as I'm looking that area over, out in the middle, there was like an island. It was just a big mound, and it was covered with birch and poplar trees. And I thought, boy, if a person could only get out there. And so I started exploring, and I started hiking around that swamp and go into it a ways and trying to figure, is there any route into that island that's dry ground? Well, it took me about 4 days going out there every day, hiking around, before I finally found an actual route out to that island that I could stay dry getting out there. So it took quite a bit of work, and I had blazed the trail, left small flags here and there, so I could find my way back out there on that dry path. You didn't dare get off that path. If you stepped in the wrong spot, you were in water right up to your neck. Well, so I went out there and I hunted, and that season, and I shot a nice big buck. And it wasn't hard getting them out as long as it stuck to that trail. It wasn't hard to drag them out. It was quite a ways. It was probably a half a mile to drag them out, but it was worth it. So the following season, I thought, well, I'm going to hunt that again. It was my understanding nobody hunted that swamp. Nobody dared go in it. Well, I got out there that second season, and I had a nice deer stand, a climber stand. And I went way up in this big popple tree. And I was probably up there 18 feet. And maybe even more. I was way up there. Opening day. Now I had hiked out there a good 2.5 hours before sunup. And I managed to shimmy up that tree, and I got my deer stand, and I am all set. I'm thinking, boy, I'm going to take me another big buck out of here this year. And sure enough, I see these 4 really nice-sized does coming in to that island from out of that swamp. And what they like to do is they like to come up on that island late morning, and then they'd bed down on the south face of that island where the sun hit them. And they'd come out of that swamp and they'd come right under my stand. So I saw those 4 big does coming in, and I thought, oh, I hope there's a buck tailing them. And sure enough, I got to look at them through my field glasses, and here's a 12-pointer coming out of the swamp, and he's right on the tail of those does. And all of a sudden I hear this crashing and this splashing, and those deer just took off every which direction, just disappeared. And I'm glassing out over that swamp, and all of a sudden I see blaze orange, and here's some guy, he's coming across that swamp. And I'm watching him, and 3 times while I watched him coming out to that island, he fell in some of them big holes that were, I mean, they're just swamp water, and right up to his armpits. I'm surprised his rifle didn't get soaked, but he was soaked. I mean, from head to toe, he was soaked. He gets up on that island, and I'm thinking, man, nobody ever comes out here. What is he doing? And he walks right up on me. I'm sitting up in the stand and I'm watching him. He comes up and he sits on this fallen log just below my stand. And I'm looking down at him, and he's loud and complaining how wet he is. He took his boots off, wrung his socks out. He's wringing his gloves out. And he's all worried that his rifle's getting wet, and on and on. And finally I got tired of listening to him. I thought, if I'm going to get any hunting done at all today, I got to get him out of here. So finally I yelled down at him. I go, hey, I think he thought the good Lord was talking to him. All of a sudden he's looking all over up in the sky, but he's not looking towards me. And then I yelled at him again. I go, hey, hey, over here, up here. And he turns and he looks and he sees me. And he goes, oh my God, man. He says, how long you been up there? I said, I've been up here since about 4 o'clock this morning. And he goes, you must be freezing to death. I said, no, I'm comfortable. And he said, you can't get across that swamp without getting soaking wet. He says, I fell in 3-4 holes coming out here. And I said, yeah, it's pretty tough getting out here. And he says, is there a better way? And I said, well, I watched you come across the swamp, and you actually picked the best route. And he goes, oh, that wasn't a good route. And I said, well, that's probably the best one. And then he says to me, he says, have you seen any deer out here? I said, oh yeah, I saw a couple right around sun. I said I didn't see them actually, but right around sunup, I heard a couple going through the woods. I said I shot at them, but I don't think I hit anything. He looked at me and he goes, you didn't see them? I said, no, but I heard them. I could hear them coming through the woods, so I took a few shots, but I don't think I hit nothing. Boy, did he get up and get out of there in a hurry. And I can imagine what he was thinking all the way through that swamp is, don't shoot at me because you hear something. And I watched him go all the way across that swamp, and he fell into 2-3 holes again on the way out, and I seen him come up on the other bank. And sure enough, he had a pickup truck parked over there, and he got in this pickup truck and left. Well, that evening, I was fortunate, just before sundown, I had a nice 8-point buck come in, and I was able to get myself a nice 8-point buck. After I got him drug out back to camp, and us guys decided to go to town for supper, so we drove into town and I saw that guy's pickup truck. We went into the local pub and we were going to have a sandwich and a couple of cold ones, and I seen that fella sitting at the bar. I walked up to him and I said, how'd you do today? And he goes, do I know you? I said, yeah, you ran into me out on that island in that swamp this morning. He goes, oh my gosh, oh yeah, I remember you. I said, well, did you get anything? He goes, no. He says, I think all I got is pneumonia. He says, I'm going home. I said, well, where's home? He says, Illinois. So he wasn't even from our state. He wasn't even from Minnesota. And I asked him if he had family up that way, and he said, no, just him and a couple buddies came up there to try to hunt northern Minnesota. Well, I don't think they're hunting northern Minnesota anymore. So, too bad the fella didn't know. That's my island. He shouldn't have come out there in the first place. So there you go. There's a Sty hunting story for you. So, just another Sty story. And this is Sty North saying, Thanks for watching, and you all have a nice day. Bye-bye.